All right, Mark and Grace here. You ready for this one?
Sure.
All right. If two Christians want to get married, but other Christian family members and friends see red flags, should they intervene, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. You want to expand on that, or we just
No.
close in prayer? Okay. Then I'll revisit. So two kids want to get married. We just had our daughter get married. And what if you or I or friends who love them at church, extended family said, actually, this is either not a good match or it's not the right time. And so those are kind of the two big issues. There's the Lord's will, and then there's the Lord's timing. And so the first question is, are they a good fit? And if they are a good fit, is this the right time? So if it's a fitment issue or it's a timing issue, family and friends have serious concerns. How should they approach it? And what would be ways to approach it that actually probably are not going to be that helpful?
Okay. Marriage is the second most important decision you'll make in your life after accepting Christ. So, in light of that, we have to take it very heavily as a decision that is going to obviously affect the rest of your life. Ideally, that's the covenant that God puts into marriage. So if we saw any red flags, whether it was with our daughter, any of our kids, or friends, we would pray about the timing and the tone so that we would have an opportunity to speak to them. And we would just kindly and lovingly say, we'd love to meet with you. We have some things we'd like to talk about, and we're wondering if you'd have ears to hear. And we would schedule a meeting. We would do it very kindly. We would set up, depending on what the issues are or who the people are, if there are kids or friends, we would navigate the situation accordingly. We would ask a lot of questions to get them to see if they have the same red flags and are just ignoring them, or,
Well, a lot of people, they want to get married. Getting married is easy. Staying married is hard. And sometimes all you think about is, we'd love to get married, but you're not thinking, what does it look like in 20 years with 4 kids? And if the relationship isn't healthy or super functional, and then you start adding the pressures of marriage, the financial responsibilities, you add parenting, if it is not well architected, it really is a household that's going to fall down. And one thought I would have is, if they're not engaged, if they're not that far down the road yet, whomever let's say you're a relative of or a friend with one or the other, I would pull them aside and have that conversation privately. Because if you deal with them as a couple, all you're going to do is you're going to push them together. They could align together like, boy, they really offended me. Okay, well then I'm going to take up offense for you. And what you could do is actually push them closer together rather than having them consider life independently of each other. And and in this as well, if you don't say anything, you're going to have a tremendous regret later if the marriage hits a real crisis and or it ends up falling apart and you didn't say anything. And so some people don't like to have those hard conversations. They can be awkward, but they're necessary, especially out of love. And that's where it really needs to be. Consider your timing, consider your tone. Pray through what you want to say, write out kind of the big ideas and the points, have a plan. Try not to make the conversation go forever. Try not to put them on the defensive. Try to lovingly encourage them to come to the conclusion. And so it can even start with, hey, I just wanted to ask you some questions. So, hey, you're dating this guy, and what do you think about him not having a job? What are you thinking about him, being an alcoholic? What do you think about the fact that you have to pick him up because he lost his license with a DUI? If you've got any of those...
You're pursuing the relationship and he isn't, or...
if you see any of those major red flags, I think it's asking the open-ended questions, leaving the awkward silence, seeing if they come to their own conclusion. And, there's 3 kinds of people. There's wise, foolish, and evil. And the situation there is just asking, is the person evil? If they're evil, then that really escalates the need for the conversation and protection. If they're addicted, if they're abusive, if they're dangerous, if they're unfaithful, any of those kinds of things, then the conversation may need to involve almost like a family intervention. Like, we all agree, we love you, This is very concerning. If you proceed forward, we love you, but we can't support this and bless this because God is not in it. If it's two foolish people, it's getting them coaching and training and seeing if they make the pivot toward wisdom. And if one of them does and one of them doesn't, it means that the relationship doesn't have a future. But there's no way, I mean, just the
To
thought
stand by. And,
yeah, the thought of avoiding conflict to allow misery is actually not loving, and it's
Right.
not helpful, and it's not godly.
And even if there's not red flags in a relationship, we encourage couples to attend some sort of pre-marriage counseling with a church, hopefully.
Yeah,
They're in a
in
good
relationship.
church and there's a couple that can kind of mentor them. We really encourage that just because everyone can learn from that. No one goes into marriage knowing exactly how to do marriage. And so that's just a win whether you have red flags or not. And so that can be a way to, if you don't feel like they're willing to listen to you and what you have to say, you can encourage and have resources for pre-marriage counseling at a church or with a couple that you know has a healthy marriage.
Yeah, and any couple that won't accept counsel from someone from somewhere,
It's tragic.
they're just destined toward real pain and destruction and devastation.
Yeah.
So if you've got a question, send it in to hello@markdriscoll.org. We'll do our best to answer it, praying for this family and friend circle dealing with this relationship. And honestly, I think it's probably the majority of the case.
Yeah.
Just as I think about it, the majority of couples sleep together, live together before they get married. They don't build a firm foundation of friendship or spirituality or wisdom or wise counsel. And sometimes you got to go back and just kind of start all over with a brand new beginning, and that may be what needs to happen here. So send in your question, and we'll do our best to give you an answer.